So officially, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Alfredo Calderon, one of the co-founders of the Virtual School of Internet Governance. And if you see Glenn on the video on the screen, he has our VSIG sweater on. So, and I have one as well, but I'm not going to use my video. Now, with every session that we have this slide that you're looking at with some housekeeping rules. So we're asking everybody to keep their mics muted. Glenn and I, we have the capacity of enabling your mics if you need to talk, and we encourage you to do that, letting us know by raising your hand or writing in the chat that you want to speak. We would like to have you disable your video so that those that have issues with bandwidth don't have that burden on themselves. And as you have seen, if you have any questions, you can post them in the chat on the left side of the presentation that you're seeing on screen. Next slide, Glenn.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'll leave this one for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, welcome everyone. Again, I'm one of the co-founders of VSIG. My name is Glenn McKnight. We structure the program that we have a weekly live session such as this. It's always the same time. It's 9 o'clock AST. That's San Juan, Puerto Rico, or sorry, it's 10 o'clock your time. My time is 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we do this and we focus on an in-depth discussion on within each of the modules that we do, the 9 modules. So all the live sessions are recorded with the scrolling chat, as you can see on the left-hand side, and it's posted automatically into the big blue button chat per section. Within 24 to 48 hours, usually 24 hours, we convert all these sessions and send them to the YouTube channel. Here is the link. I've also put it into the chat for the playlist. And we try to structure it so that we have 15 minutes left in each hour for questions. And so again, post them. I'm able as the presenter to open up your audio as well. We just don't want to open up the audio for everyone. We hear street noise, we hear all kinds of stuff. So we try to be as professional as possible with that. And again, when the questions come up, I'll try to remember and go through the queue. And upon conclusion of the session, we have the short online survey. And I promise you, it's a very short survey, just to get your feedback on the session. Back to you, Alfredo.
Next slide, please. Okay, so as you all know, this is sort of an introduction and a orientation session, so that if you have any questions, you'll be able to ask them, and we'll answer them as best we can. Next slide, Glenn. So just in case, here's a picture of Glenn and a picture of myself. Some of you may know me from one of the previous ICANN face-to-face meetings, and as well as some of you which are fellows from the ICANN community as well. Next slide.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we're going to go through, to keep it as simple as possible, we're going to deal with why did we create VSIG, who is involved, what are the features and the benefits of the program, what are the immediate outcomes for current student cohorts, and some housekeeping duties. Back to you.
Okay, so why VSIG? Why did we work on this project? Well, back in May, we knew that the COVID pandemic was causing some problems with our face-to-face meetings, both in the IGF world and in the ICANN meeting world, and we came up with this idea that if we had some way to get people from all over the world together, and we can have some sort of experience where we can exchange information and get some feedback as soon as we started discussing some of the topics, it would be great. Now, it is important for you to be aware that this does not replace a face-to-face experience of any schools of internet governance or internet governance forums. This is just a place where we can get together and learn the fundamentals or the basics of internet governance, and from there we can make our own decisions of where we want to go through. So this is an entry-level education repository of information for all people interested in internet governance. Next slide, Glenn.
If I can say, just on the last point, we do say it's an entry level. It doesn't say it's basic. There's something for everyone. We did, thank you for those who've put their bios into the participant forum already. There's something for everyone, and we allow you to, with the complementary resources and resources we give you, to dive deep as you want. So if you're an old hack at this, that you've been around the internet governance, this is a good refresher. If you're brand new to the field, this is a great entry. Okay.
And since you mentioned that, Glenn, if some of you feel that there is something that we're missing, you're free to send us a note, and we'll try to add it, if possible, within this group or by the next group as well. Next slide, please. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, so we try to divide our work up in terms of what each of us are responsible for. So there's more than just Alfredo and I, but from the sake of division of labor, Alfredo is responsible. He's the dean of the program. He's an academic. Myself, I'm the project coordinator of this. I have to do a lot of the other tasks that are not academic, but I also work with Alfredo on the content. But we also, as we said, we started this off back in May, and we recruited 13 beta testers and some senior advisors, people such as Satish Babu from the Indian School, Olga Cavalli from the Southern School. But we had people like Bill Joris and Eduardo Diaz as examples of people who know the topics very intensely and dive deep into the topics, and really did a great job in basically helping us, basically giving feedback on the content, the accuracy, the completeness. But we also had a bunch of people from a student point of view who actually went through the content. And these are people who've taken courses at iCanLearn. They've taken courses through ISOC, or maybe FutureLearn or Coursera. So it's a very, very extensive type of user experience. And that went on for July and August before we launched our first program, which was in September, where we had 100 students complete the course roughly about a week ago. And the last part, who's involved? Well, we have 9 excellent volunteers, and you see that Dr. Olivier Carpin-Lepont, he's going to be doing the history. If you've had the pleasure of seeing his session, I think Denise was in Montreal. She saw his presentation. It's one of the most extensive, comprehensive presentations you can have. You have to look forward to that. But we have sessions lined up, leaders in the internet governance community that we know personally or otherwise, that are going from one session after the other. Okay. Anything you want to add to that, Alfredo?
Yes, just a note. Although Glenn mentioned that Olivier gives an extensive history session, his will be a short one because we want you, the students, to be able to ask him questions about the history of the whole process. So keep that in mind, and go through the content and get ready to ask him tough questions that if he doesn't know the answer, he sure is going to find out the answer for you. Next slide, please.
Go ahead.
Yes, in terms of the features, and we're going to go through a few of them, we're using Moodle as our online learning platform, and we did an extensive research in order to find one that was useful and user-friendly for us. This platform allows us, as some of you have already seen, to have enriched media content. So we have ebooks, we have texts, we have videos, we have links all over the place, and we have the complementary resources, which also enhance the material that we minimally require you to go through based on the objectives. There's another great advantage of using Moodle, and I guess some of you already know this. There's a Moodle app that you can download to your device. So you'll be able to download the module you're interested in reviewing to your smartphone, to your tablet, to your iPad, and look at it offline. And if you're doing the quizzes, for those that are seeking the certificate, you'll be able to do those quizzes offline. And then when you have access to Wi-Fi or internet, you just refresh and upload the results and it'll grade it for you automatically. The system we're using allows us to do some management for the to track the performance of each one of you. So you'll see, and I have been doing this for the last couple of days, and Glenn as well. We send reminders to you regarding what's next. We have a space where we can answer questions to each one of you in private. So look out for that. And if you have any questions and you want to address them in private, you can do it through the platform. So I just mentioned that you can download the content, so you can do some offline learning as well. And if you are interested, and this came up with the previous group, if you are interested in downloading some of the resources and having them available to you, you can do it. But don't wait until the last minute to try to download everything. There's a lot of material there, and those of you that have walked through the content already will see that there's a lot of information to download. As Glenn mentioned, we have the live chat. There's a section where if you see that someone is actually logged in the course, you can start chatting with them, sort of instant messaging type of thing. And we also have the weekly live sessions. And we're eager to hear your ideas and how you feel with these live sessions we're going to have starting next week. If you have any ideas, any questions, please give us the feedback as soon as you can. In each module, we have the discussion forums, and some of you might have noticed as you presented, introduce yourself with your bio. That's a discussion forum. So some of you have already answered or replied to some of the posting, presenting yourself and getting in touch with each other. And the whole idea is that everybody gets to know everybody. And some of you have even found out that you've been together as an ICANN fellow or have been in Eurodig together or participate in some form of professional activity where you're reuniting through this course as we move forward. So the discussion forum is a great place to get to know each one and discuss questions. We have quizzes, and let me talk to you a little bit about the quizzes. The quizzes are only meant to help you gain the basic or the fundamentals, ideas, and concepts of that module. If you are seeking the certificate of completion, you have to take the quizzes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. You have to take the quizzes and perform above 80% in each quiz. Now, that doesn't mean that you only have one shot at the quizzes. You can take them as many times as you need to, but the minimum points you need is 80% in each one in order to get the certificate of completion at the end, and it will automatically pop up in the last module. Next, Glenn.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, thank you, Alfredo. I just wanted to mention, and I put it in the chat for people, you have to understand that the approach that Moodle has is that uses something called a MOOC. And it's not a new idea. It's been around for a while. It's called the Massive Open Online Courseware. And Moodle has probably one of the best methodologies. It's not a free even though it's an open source tool, but it's in multiple languages and their support. So we decided on this tool because it was the most comprehensive. Now, a lot of institutions use a lot of different tools, but believe it or not, many of the institutions are moving to Moodle as another platform. But this is the current tool we use. Okay.
Okay, great. So this on your screen is an example of the certificate of completion that will pop up, as I mentioned in the last module, once you meet all the requirements. And where Glenn is pointing, you'll see that your name will appear there. So it's important that your name is correctly spelled. Otherwise, you'll at the end you'll be surprised if it's not accurate enough. And on the top right side, there'll be an ID that comes up that identifies who you are and if you completed the course, and we use that in case in the future somebody wants to verify that you actually did complete the course and have the certificate of completion. Next, Glenn. Okay, now this gives you an idea of what you can expect if you download a module onto your mobile device. On the left side, you see a screenshot of the introduction, and actually I took that after downloading that section. In the middle, you'll see some of the introductory material that we post in this particular module, which is the history of internet governance. Each module has something similar. It has a short introduction, and then it has what you see on the right side. That's a screenshot of the way we've structured each module. You'll have an objectives section. You'll have the actual content in the form of a book, and the book, as the analogy means, is that you're going to have chapters, and within each chapter you're going to have sections. So when you click on it, it'll take you to the book on the history of internet governance, and covers from the beginning to present time history of the internet governance. You also have a section, as you've already done with the introduction. There's a discussion forum. Well, you'll be able to post your questions, and you'll see that Glenn and I and Bill and Eduardo, who are also the teachers in the course, post some questions so that you can start thinking and reflecting on those questions and give us some feedback. And if you have any questions, you can post them as well. And then there's the quiz. Now, remember that each module has a quiz, and only those that are seeking the certificate of completion have to take the quiz and achieve an 80% minimum score in order to get the certificate of completion at the end. And then we have the complementary resources, and those appear when you click on it at another screen, and you have a whole list of resources, be there ebooks, videos, and links to other material that will be more specific regarding some of the topics within the module. And after that, we have the chat space. The chat space is where you can have some form of instant messaging with those that are actually logged in the course at the same time. And finally, we have the big blue button session. And this is where you have all that have done so are logged in. Clicking on that, it'll take you to the description, the time you can join, and the join session button that appears. Next. This is what you see if you use a tablet, which has a larger screen, and this is a landscape example. On the left side, you see the dashboard or the basic tools that you have, and you'll see that you have a calendar. You'll be able to see your grades. You'll be able to chat and so forth. And that's just an example, so you're aware that that's what you'll see. Next.
If I may interrupt,
Sure.
I would suggest any of you who are not familiar with the terms, and sometimes we are a little bit insensitive sometimes, we just use acronyms, and it's not out of purpose, it's just that we're so used to it. So, it would be prudent for you to bookmark the acronyms, the ICANN or or the other Diplos, or even the Spectrum Policy Dictionary in your bookmarks, so that when you're reading the material or you're listening to discussions, so you're familiar with the terminology.
Great point, Glenn. And as a matter of fact, if you go into the ICANN acronyms and terms, it's in 6 different languages. So don't be afraid if you don't understand the term in English, you can look it up in Spanish, Arabic, and so forth. Next. So this is an example of on the left side, you see an example of the table of content of a book. Remember, I told you that the book has chapters. So here you have an example of the table of content where you have chapters and you have sections within the chapters. And this is an example of the history of Internet governance. On the right side, you also see a similar example when you look for it in your tablet or iPad. Next slide, Glenn. Since we mentioned quizzes, these are 2 examples of quizzes. On the left side, what you'll see on your mobile device, this is one question where you actually have to select the correct answer. And on the right side, you see a question where you have to do some matching. So you have 2 different types of questions. There are true and false questions as well within the quizzes as you take them. Next slide, Glenn.
I'd just like to mention, Bill made a good point in the chat. Bill Joris, he says, even if you don't need the certificate, it's worth doing the quiz to make sure you understand everything.
Oh, yes. Go ahead and take them. That will be serve as a refresher and ensure that you have the basic fundamental concepts present as we move forward. Thank you for that, Bill. So here again is a screenshot of a question where you have to do the matching sort of stuff, and this is in the history of the Internet governance. So be aware that this question will appear there. So you have to read through the material and you have to understand the material in order to match correctly the questions.
Okay.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, thank you. That was great. Let me go through some of the benefits. You really see a clear and decisive educational roadmap for you for Internet governance. When we set down the modules or the pillars, we looked at best practice. We are basically not inventing these concepts. In fact, when we started to populate some of the sections, people who were advisors to our group, which were legal people, would want almost everything under their legal section. And then people who were economists would say, no, that belongs there. So we had to be arbitrary. And some of the stuff you may agree with the lawyer or the economist, and you'll say, well, why is it there, not here? But as long as the stations are on your trip or there, that's why we have a clear educational roadmap. Learning environment. And again, this is your program. It's not our program. It's your program to share your knowledge and experience with each other. That's why it's so important for you to introduce yourself. Please read other people's introductions. There could be people doing very similar things as you are doing, but in a different country. Perhaps they're dealing issues on, identity theft or cybersecurity or revenge porn or child safety. Doesn't matter what it is, but you can share your life history, and a lot of times you can start making friends and associates that have a similar interest as yourself. And you never know. Some of you may run across each other at an ICANN meeting, an IGF, or an ISOC event. So it's a great way to start meeting the rest of outside of your own community. Lastly, participate in an interactive online environment with discussions, chats, live sessions with various perspectives. Again, that just emphasizes the nature of what we're trying to do. It's a user or participant-based program, so that it's, what you get out of it is what you put into it. Again, we keep emphasizing you do not have to take the certificate. We're not putting, this is a free program. And thanks to our sponsors, it has been free. And again, we want to always keep it free. We not just want to keep it free, but we want it multilingual as well. And we will talk about that in a minute. I'll go to the next slide. Any other comments, Alfredo? You want to add anything to that on benefits?
Yeah. Basically, it's been interesting, and going back to the introductions of each one of you, the students. It's been interesting to see that some of you are doing similar projects in different countries, and this is a great way to do some networking and see how you can collaborate and work on bigger projects together, probably even across a continent or across the region. So that's one of the benefits of having all these tools available within the platform and the course. Next slide. So there's some housekeeping that some of you have already done, but I need everyone to be aware of it. When you log into your account, on the top right side, you'll see there's a tick there, right next to your name and your space to put on your photo if you want to. If you click on it, it'll show you a menu, and one of the options is a profile. It's important that you click on that and you update your profile. On the right side, you'll see that there's a section where you can edit your profile. It's important that you do that, and you'll see why in the next screen, in the next slide, Glenn. So there's a section where you have to put in your city or town on the bottom, and you have to select your country. In my case, I'm from San Juan, that's the city. The country is Puerto Rico, and your time zone. That's important because the system automatically recognizes your time zone, and wherever we post information regarding a time, it'll translate it to your time zone. So keep that in mind. Some of you might have in your profile that it says San Juan, Puerto Rico, and others it doesn't. So please make sure that you edit that profile. You have your city, you select your country, and the adequate time zone. Next. If you want to add your photo, which you are free to do so, all you have to do is move down to the section under Edit Profile where you can locate your photo in your computer. You just select it, it'll upload, and it'll appear in your profile. Now, we're trying to meet some accessibility requirements or disability requirements. So please write a short description of the photo that people are going to see, so that we know in case we have difficulty seeing it, we can at least hear what the photo is all about. Next slide. There's something that some of you need to be aware of. If you are seeking the certificate, in the introduction module, there's a participant guidebook that you should all have read. And on the right side, there's a box where you have to check mark it. If you don't do that, you won't be able to get your certificate, although you have done all the quizzes and met the 80% threshold. And it's important to be aware that there's a section where we have a discussion forum to get to know everybody. And every time we have something that we want everyone to know about, we have an important announcements discussion forum where we post all the important announcements, and you'll receive a message regarding that if you're subscribed to the important announcements. Next, Glenn. So this is how the discussion threads look. If you want to participate in one discussion thread, you can just click on it and it'll bring the discussion thread up, and you can add your comments or your remarks or respond to somebody's post. If you want to add a new discussion topic, just click on the button that says add a new discussion topic, and that will allow you to write the title, and it'll bring up a box where you can write in whatever information you want to write on that new discussion topic that you want to share with the participants. On the right side, you'll see that under replies, you'll see the number of people or the number of replies that's been going on within that topic as well. Next slide, Glenn. This is what Big Blue Button looks like when you go to that section. And as you can see, for next week, we have the history of internet governance, and Dr. Olivier Capron-Lebron will be the guest speaker. If you click on his name, it'll take you to a short bio. And below, you see the time we open the session, so we can start logging into the session, and you have the access to a time and date tool if you don't have the correct time, or you want to check to make sure that you're in the correct time zone. And then you have the link to the short survey that you'll be able to answer after each one of those sessions. It's a very short survey. I think it's 4 or 5 questions, and they're easy to answer. It'll take you about a minute to answer them. Next slide, Glenn. So again, just to emphasize, in the introduction section, on the right side of the participant guidebook, which is a PDF document, you have to click on it if you are seeking the certificate of completion. If you don't, you might have to go back to the beginning, click on it, complete all the quizzes with a minimum of 80% in order to see the certificate in the last module of the course. Next slide, Glenn.
Okay, so this is a famous saying, and we do a little adaptation on it. You can please some of the people all of the time, and all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of people all the time. And that was a famous saying by Abraham Lincoln. And the meaning that we have there is that we are trying our best. Some of you may like other tools. Some of you may think this is fantastic. All we can do is, with your help, to improve what sections that are incomplete or not accurate, or you feel that it needs more information. But I think it's a fairly comprehensive course. And one of the things I have to stress to you, don't get overwhelmed when you see the material or the complementary materials. This is a self-paced course. Some people may be very obsessive and they need to read every single word. They have to watch every video, read every report. And that's not the obligation. That's the people who are, maybe have lots of time on their hands. But people who are busy and they're particularly interested in one area, that's the area they're probably going to look at. And in some cases, it may not be as comprehensive as you would want. We're trying to make this program relatively generic. So, which means that we had to go vanilla, which means that it's not exotic flavors, it's not mango or pistachio, it's vanilla. So, which means that we've tried to please the majority of people, but some of the people, it's going to overwhelm them. Some people, they're going to say it's not enough. So we'll just keep trying to perfect this model. But again, we are very honest with you. It's not perfect, but I think the course meets the needs of the majority of the entry-level people.
And adding to what Glenn has mentioned, that's why we have the discussion forums. If you find that there's an issue or topic that's relevant to you and you think it might be relevant to others, post it. Start a discussion topic so that we can dwell on it and talk about it and exchange opinions and ideas. As Glenn mentioned, this is done for you guys, and you are the stars in this. We're just here as facilitators for you. Next, Glenn. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a few, jot these down. We try to use the website and the Facebook site as sites of keeping people informed as possible. We have, as you know, you've been here this morning. It's our platform, our online platform. You definitely need an ID and password. All of you had an ID and password. Some people were still chasing because their IDs and password communication is in their spam box, or they're not reading their email. So we are still chasing people, and we will for the next while. My email is info@virtualsig.org, and Alfredo's is registration@virtualsig.org.
If you need to send us a message, we'll respond as soon as we can. And you can follow us through our website and our Facebook. And we're actually missing our Twitter. We also have a Twitter account, which is Virtual School IG. So you can actually follow us through Twitter as well. And I guess on the next slide, Glenn, we are open for questions. And while people start organizing themselves, yes, Josefina, you can download the content on your mobile device, but on your desktop as well. All you have to do is go to Moodle.org and look for the desktop version of the app, and you can download it, and you'll be able to work offline with the content. Any more questions that I'm missing, Glenn?
Well, I want to mention that our goals. We told you what why we set up the VSIG, but our goal is eventually to have the entire program converted to different languages. And we've had initial discussion with Spanish, French, and Arabic. That's the 3 languages that we've had discussion, but we're more than happy to talk to different organizations and groups to expand that pool of question. Moodle has dozens of languages as the basic platform, but it's going to require a substantial amount of work. And that's something, any of you who have contacts in your country and you see value of having this translated into your own indigenous languages, let us know. We're very open to seeing how this program can expand to different languages. Now, the challenge is going to be, as the editors go through the material, is to find comparable material, whether it be reports or YouTube videos or other materials that are in your own local languages. So that's a challenge, but it's not impossible. So let's go back. So folks, you need to post. So there's a comment here from Clementa Argent. I would like to ask if there's a deadline in taking the weekly quizzes. Do we have to keep up with the pace of each week's topic? Excellent question. Do you want to handle that, Alfredo?
Sure. It really doesn't matter, Plamena. The quizzes, you can do them over a weekend if you want to, but you have to go through the content. The weekly sessions are just there to help you better understand the content of the module. If you're seeking the certificate, it would be better if you set aside a time, a number of hours a week to go through the module, and that will prepare you better to participate in the weekly live sessions if you're going to do that. Otherwise, the quizzes, you can do them any way you want. You can start taking the last module quiz and work your way backward to the front or whatever. It doesn't really have to be in a specific order. Besides that, Pamena, keep in mind that the live sessions are going to be recorded, so you can watch them not at this time, but anytime you want during the week after we download them. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, Lejana has asked about setting up a school of internet governance in Macedonia. One of the things we need to mention to all of you, this is an actual perfect springboard for you to look at setting up a school. There is schools, but not in every country. So if you look at the last module, we tossed that in. It really isn't a core module. You'll notice we won't have a discussion on live chat on it, but you can see we're trying to do profiles of people who are actually doing schools. And in some cases, there's very little information on some of the schools. I just helped with the Ghana school. I'm on their board. And one of the big things that Alfredo and I have done, and some of you may be aware of it, is the IGF Dynamic Coalition of Schools of Internet Governance. And it's run by Avery Dore. She's the chair. She's an ICANN board member. And we created a taxonomy of the topics that should be run in a school. Remember, a face-to-face school is very different than what we're doing. A face-to-face school is over sometimes 1, 2, 3 a week, and they are assignments, and a lot of times you have to pay to go to the school, but it's particularly focused on the needs and wants of that country. Say, for example, there's one in Uganda, and one of the hot topics is the election shutdown. And so that could be a real strong discussion within the School of Internet Governance. Would not be necessarily a topic that we would do in North America because we don't have that type of thing. But fake news or fake information, again, it's a relevant topic around the world. But again, please go and look at that section and join the DC Coalition of Internet Governance. The two things that we really worked on in the past year, and thanks to Alfredo's diligence as well, we really improved the taxonomy. That's the long list of what topics should be in a course. And the second thing is, if you want to do a school, we've created, largely by the work of myself and with the support of Alfredo, we created a operations guide, how to run a school, all the operational things, everything from registration of the students to, selecting of the speakers to, everything from logistics issues of transportation and hotels. So it's probably the most comprehensive guidebook that you could have in terms of how to set up and run a school. So please, if anyone's interested, we're happy to assist you on that. Okay, so it was a question here. Please share the guidebook. I sure will. I'll send that onwards. Okay, what else is in the question? Did I see something? Oh, there's from Asma. I wanted to inquire more about the events key presented in the calendar. Can you address that, Alfredo? Alfredo, are you there? I think we may have lost Alfredo. Hopefully there's not a hurricane going through San Juan. Okay, so you have an event calendar. We try to update that. I've added a couple of things this morning. The Internet Governance Forum that has been added as well. I was just in the process of looking for the link for the guidebook for Leon, but Alfredo, are you still there? I think he's been knocked off. Okay, so let me just add Bill, make him a presenter as well in the interim. I'm just going to add Bill into in the absence of Alfredo, since Alfredo has dropped off. Bill, can you speak?
Once I remember the mute button, yes.
Okay, thank you for joining us so early in the morning, Bill. We're just walking through the introduction to the course itself and some value-added stuff that we've added from an educator and teacher of the program and one of the presenters. You did the last session. You did a session on the stuff that's close to your heart. Can you mention about what you did as a live chat last session?
Yeah, mostly I talked about the need to have communications in languages other than English. For historical reasons, domain names have always been basically in English. And some years ago, ICANN decided to try and internationalize those to allow basically to allow other scripts to be used. Some of those were pretty straightforward because most scripts are used for a single language. If you are using Greek or Laotian, you have one script, one language. If you want to know what symbol to use, you can go to any elementary school textbook that teaches children to read, and there's the alphabet for you. Things get a little more interesting when you get to the Latin script, which is the one I've been on for the last 5 years, simply because there are a couple of hundred languages which use some variation on the Latin script. They start with the same couple of dozen letters, and then there are maybe a half dozen more that have been added for some languages. But mostly what gets done with Latin is adding diacritic marks, dots, lines, etc., around the edges of the letters. And that's fine, except if you have diacritic marks that are too similar and you can't tell them apart. Spanish, for example, uses a tilde over the letter N. It's a wavy line. There are other languages where what is used over the letter N is a macron, which is a straight line. If you are only familiar with one of them and you've never seen the other, and you're expecting a domain name with that one, and what you see a link to is the other one, will you ever notice? And so there's a whole range between things that are obviously different and things that are so similar nobody can tell the difference, plus a couple of cases where you have two letters that are in fact identical. There's something called a schwa, which is a letter E turned upside down. There is a different letter called a turned E, which is a letter E turned upside down. They're pixel for pixel identical, so good luck at telling the difference. But as far as the computer is concerned, they're two different letters. And so if you have two domain names and the only difference is which one of those they use, the possibilities for confusion are enormous. So we've spent most of the last 5 years trying to go through and figure out what differences will people notice and what differences will people never notice. Unfortunately, the 7 of us that are that are working on that have now spent 5 years looking at all of the 20 or so different diacritic marks, so we know them all. So whether we can stand as an average user in telling what's different and what isn't is debatable.
So, Bill, can you share with everyone where somebody can get involved with these kind of working groups if they're very interested in pushing the agenda, having a non-English internet? Is that something that people on this group can get involved with?
Sure, you can get involved with ICANN, Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. There are a variety of ways to get involved. The two simplest, one is to simply go to the ICANN website and sign up yourself as an individual member. And on the site, there are lists of projects that are going on, and you can simply get on their mailing list and see what's there. The other way you can get involved is there are ALSs, and I don't recall right now what the acronym stands for, but basically they are groups like, say, the local branch of the Internet Society, which, if you are involved with that, they can then ease you into involvement in ICANN as well. ICANN does basically three conferences a year. This year we've been doing them virtually for obvious reasons, but that will get you even more aware of what all projects are going on, what projects are being recruited for, and I think that those are the ways that I know of to get involved. There are doubtless others.
I just added your session that you did, Bill, for us back in Group A. So people who are interested in IDN, I just wanted to bring you into the discussion on the IDN issue. And I've just shared your video that you did. And in that, I think you provided a lot of the URL links to directly to get involved. And I know it's 6 a.m. for you, and it's putting you on the spot. I appreciate you jumping in and adding. But I wanted to just address the issue that Bukhara has asked about the live sessions. You do not have to come to these live sessions. These are educational, and again, to speak, it's not a mandatory thing to get the certificate. It's one of the value added we try to do above the online course and the quizzes and chats and discussions. So, it doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So please look at the live chats as an optional volunteer thing that you would like to get involved, and watch the video later if you can't get to this session. We never expected a lot of people to come to these live chats, but if you do have a burning question for the speaker, now that I've given you the link to the summary of each of the live chats. You can see who they are. You can click on their bios and what their discussion will be within that module. So feel free that it's not something that's an absolutely compulsory thing in order to get the certificate. The only thing we talk about is, take the course at your own time, at your own leisure. It's a self-paced course. It just, if you do want the certificate, and you don't have to do the certificate if you don't want to, but if you do want it, one of the ways that in order to generate the certificates, you have to complete the quizzes. Okay. There was a question here. Where do we find the video on the MOOC? I did post that a little while ago. If you can look up in the chat, it was earlier on after we described what is, yes. What is a MOOC? This is something I'll try to copy and paste it again. This is a pretty good video on what a MOOC is and how it operates. So here it is. That's a YouTube video that I located. I think it summarizes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did post. Bill asked about Bill's session, and this is Bill's video, and that was in this. We have every session recorded. Okay, I think time is running out. And again, thank you, Bill, for your comments. Alfredo has gone off to a meeting, and I'm going to wrap it up. One last question from anybody before I leave. Okay, I did post the link to the comments that you can give back on this session. Again, it's an orientation session. It's just the nuts and bolts of the program itself. Nothing compared to what we're going to have in the next few sessions, which are drilled down into one of the key topics within the modules. So I'm looking for any other questions. No, I think Josefina says that's great. Gracias as well for coming, Josefina. Super. Okay. I hope it all went well for you. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll be posting this video as multiple locations on the site here on the big blue button, and we'll see you online on any postings, and I have a bit of homework to follow up with you. And again, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and we'll see you all online. Thank you again. Bye-bye.